Hi, Caroline. Looks like you're the only one at the moment.
Yeah, just joined.
How are you? Everything going all right?
Yes, fine, thank you. Yeah, just juggling the uni and the work and full-time mum. You know what it's like.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I've been looking at the WhatsApp messages. Um, Trouble trying to get hold of the different documents, certainly for week 6. Um, and I can't remember whether it's Ryan or Nick got hold of Stacey. I think Stacey's replied. So,
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I got hold of Stacey this morning.
right.
Sorry, I emailed Stacey this morning, and because I didn't have any of the documents on the homepage in module for week 6. So she's kindly acted really quickly and uploaded all the documents that should be showing on week 6, and I think everybody can now access them.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't been in today, so I haven't been able to have a look.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I had the same problem as you. I had to go in through Primo, and then it said access was denied, and then I managed to get in from that direction.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they just aren't there as PDF documents, but I'll have a word with Stacey and try and make sure it's sorted out for 7 onwards. Uh,
Yeah, and I think, I've had a brief look at week 7, and I think the rest of the weeks are okay. I think it was just week 6, but
okay.
yeah, it's unfortunately it's been frustrating because it's put me behind a bit this week. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to catch up. Because I want to catch up with the feedback from my other documents that I've put in
Yeah, I
because
think I've given you
um,
feedback on everything up until yesterday, so
yeah, yeah,
should be
yeah,
stuff there.
yeah.
So I just wanted to go through for the next 25, 30 minutes with you, and if anybody else joins us, hopefully, week 4, which was the Managing Change week.
Yep.
So hopefully somewhere I have a PowerPoint. Manage content. Let's see what happens. Did you have any problem with the learning materials? I don't think you did from looking at your submissions. Um, was it all? Was it? Did you find it all okay?
Yeah, I actually liked this week a lot. I found it really interesting because it's something which aligns nicely with my role at the moment.
Yeah,
So I've been able to take elements of it to work and practice it through work as well. So that's really good. Especially the training I'm doing at work. There's sort of sometimes groups between 10 and 20 people looking at communication and, how we adapt the different attitudes through different people's personalities through training and question and answers and
yeah.
listening and skills. And yeah, it was all very sort of scientific. It's becoming very scientific, and I didn't realize it was so much psychology involved. But yeah, it's all good. I enjoyed that week a lot.
And it's. I mean, I think it's very easy to get caught up in all the theory, all the Cotters and the Lewins and the ADCARs and goodness knows what else, typo, type E, and to sort of forget that it's really about the people and bringing the people with you, and that's what
Mm.
the leadership side is all about. And also to ask yourself, well, why are we talking about managing change anyway?
Mm.
Why are we doing that? So, can I do this? Let's have a look. I mean, I think it's all about the VUCA thing, isn't it? That would be my because we've got all this kind of stuff going on internally to the organisation and externally, so everything's so volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. So there's change all the time. So it is the most central thing I think that a leader has to deal with, because whether they like it or not, change is happening to them. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's easy to lose sight of that, and I think we'll get onto it. But the Wheatley model, where you actually actively seek out change, um, is is the model that chimes with me the most. Because if you're
Yeah.
seeking out change, you're not having it done to you, so it's much easier to manage it. I
Mm.
don't know what your views are on that, if you have any.
Yeah, I mean, I took parts of the models that I read um, and applied it to my role at work. So things like changes, but also looking at the elements of praising people more,
Yes.
sharing information, asking for other people's opinions, sort of being more open, really,
Yeah.
and looking for maintaining that change after you've put procedures in place. So I had to interview somebody yesterday, and it was for a quality manager, and he gave a very good explanation of how he maintained change when processes go through a quality management system. So that
Yeah.
was something I found very interesting. So it's looking at, as well as cracking this code of change, how to maintain it when it's in the system,
Yeah.
and get people to buy into it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of the things that helped me a lot.
Well, I think that's excellent because I mean you've jumped the gun of what I've got on my PowerPoint here because
Oh,
now it's good. That's very good because if you look at the three models, which we'll get onto very briefly in a minute, with the Lewin, the Cotter, and the Adcar models, the one thing they have in common is they really don't take account of people and individuals. Uh,
mm,
so you've kind of picked that up and gone with it. I mean, I don't know whether you realise that they don't. That none of them has any real. They're all very technical, aren't they? And
yes.
they're all really a variation on a theme.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure whether I mentioned it in your. Well, actually, we might as well go through this lot, might we? I mean, cracking the code of change. That's a really interesting article, I think.
Mm.
I've no doubt you found it interesting as well. But what I mean, it's right at the very beginning that I find most traditional organisations accept, in theory at least, that they must either change or die. Well, we all know that, and the brutal fact is about 70% of all change initiatives have failed.
Yeah, I
Those.
remember reading that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are in the first couple of paragraphs of that article. So that really brings home to those of you that are leaders or going to be leaders how important it is to manage change, because you don't want to be one of those 70% that fail, because self-evidently there's going to be 30% that aren't failing in the change, and they will obviously go ahead. So I mean, it's really important that we look at the different models and are aware of what we can use to apply when we're in your situation. And that's why the managing change comes after the leadership, because the leadership bit is obviously important. About leading yourself, understanding yourself, and the leadership of others through the different traits. So there is a kind of progression through. Uh,
Yeah.
what have I
And
got
I
here?
also thought, I think somewhere I read that leaders need followers as much as followers need leaders.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and, I think that's quite relevant with my role at the moment, because I'm having to roll out all the information with Brexit, deal or no deal at the
Yeah.
moment, which is, as you can imagine, because there's such uncertainty, it's quite a struggle. So where I haven't got time to read all the HMRC notices that are coming out, I
Yeah.
can deliver them, but it's up to each individual site to
Yeah.
put their own procedures in place, each site internally,
Mm.
to manage those processes. And I think that the followers need me to roll that information out, but I
Yeah.
need to rely on them to provide me with the little nuances of information, at the customs borders. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's differences there.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to look at the Dancing Man video?
Yes, I did. That was amazing. Although it was funny, the theory was amazing, because it's funny how we work as humans, isn't it? And
Yeah.
when the difference is to when the second man came up dancing as to
Yeah.
when the third man came up, and then they all
Yeah.
started joining in. The way your thinking is swayed is just, I'd never gone that far before.
No,
And
I mean, it is light-hearted, but really for me, it probably encapsulates everything to do with with setting direction and being how important a follower is.
yeah,
As you've just said, if you can't be a leader without a follower, can you? Uh,
no,
and I don't really want to go back over the first 2 or 3 weeks, but there was a statistic I think that I can't remember, it was Harvard or one of the business schools, set up a leadership management course, a bit like Plymouth, I guess, and also a followership course. Nobody signed on to the followership course. Everybody signed on to the leadership course. Well,
Yes,
there is a progression from followership to leadership. So I
mm,
think that was an interesting thing.
yeah, yeah.
Um, this is, you'll have seen this. I think this is in probably the Cracking the Code of Change um, article, and it's about Margaret Wheatley's book, which was
Mm.
published about 25, 30 years ago. Did you get a chance to look at it? How his
I'm
eyes?
reading it. I'm
Yeah,
reading it.
yeah.
And
I'm not
it's
going to read through that quote, but I mean, he read Margaret Wheatley's book and he said, it really opened my eyes
mm,
because it's not about the essentially what he's saying, it's not about the technicalities of the change. Anybody can understand that, anybody can look at the process of Lewin or Adkar or
mm,
Cotter. What it is about is it's about teams, and about people and about adapting. And I think that's really important.
mm,
And I think that quote, if you pin that up on your wall, I don't
yeah,
think that'd be too far off if you keep looking at that.
yeah, yeah,
Um, anyway, and I'll just quickly go through the change models. I mean, you've seen all this anyway. I mean, Lewin and Cotter. I mean, they're out all
yeah.
the
I've
time.
got them saved. Yeah.
And as you've already pointed out, is there anything in common there? Well, yeah, they each one of them on the cons. If you looked at the feedback sheets, did you get a chance to look at the feedback sheets for them? Um,
Yeah.
they display no cultural sensitivity to the people involved.
Mm,
Yeah, and you wonder how. Um, I don't know what they are. I mean, Lewin's a consultant or was a consultant. I mean, how you can go into an organisation even in the 1950s and ignore that it's the needs of the people that are going to, or the people that are going to enable the change, and to ignore that in any model that you come up with seems to me to be, quite proud, almost
yeah.
profoundly incompetent, really. But
Yeah.
at least you found that out or have commented on that, which I think is really good.
Yeah.
Um, and I know we don't actually cover. I don't know whether we cover this later on in the course, but
I
I
don't
think.
remember seeing this yet.
Sorry.
I don't remember seeing this yet.
No, but I think this is really important, and I'm not sure why it's not covered because, um, especially with big change or deep change, and I've been involved with several change projects, as I'm sure you have.
Mm,
The Kubler-Ross change curve, which was developed way back in, I think, by Elizabeth Kubler, I think it was in the 1950s, um, to to explain people's reaction to grief, but it also applies to a number of other things, change, well, big change anyway, included. Um, and I think again you've picked up on this. It's all very well applying any of the three models, uh, you know, Cotter or Adcar, but if you're not understanding, how people are reacting to that, then you're going to lose them. Um, did you get a chance to look at the Kubler-Ross model at all? I think I mentioned
no,
it. Um,
no.
the shock or denial. I mean, I go through them. I can't believe it. This can't be happening. That's what when you introduce. I've sat in meetings, as I'm sure you have, and saying we're going to do this big change thing. It's all going to change, and
Mm,
people, they cross their arms, sit back, and they're completely resistant to it, and they go, "I can't believe this is happening again. It's a complete load of rubbish. Why are you doing this? Am I going to lose my job?" Um, and then there's the anger side of it. You know, why have you got to do this to us? We're quite happy doing what we're doing. This is ridiculous, and that's the point that I think that leaders tend to flinch and lose sometimes some of the momentum
mm,
faced with the anger of a team. But understanding the Kubler-Ross cycle, you know that the next thing that's going to happen is they're going to bargain with you. So I've
yeah.
just put this down here. If you leave me out this, you can increase my targets. That kind of thing. You
Mm,
know, um, and then this is the important bit this is the most important or the most difficult bit for a leader. This is where you start to really lose people. They lose motivation, and if you look back at the Kubler-Ross cycle, energy levels are at their most low. and you're already well into the change cycle, where people are starting to get depressed by things that are happening. Why is this? Nothing's happening here. It's going to be a load of old rubbish again. What's the point of trying? All that kind of stuff. And then they start to come out of it. You know, I can see why we're doing this change. I can see how it will benefit us and me and the team. And even, I mean, I think this is a bit negative, but nevertheless, it is beginning to pick up on the energy levels. I can't fight it, so I might as well accept it. I mean, I would rather not have that. I'd rather have, somebody saying, yeah, I can see the benefits, but nevertheless. So I mean, for me, the Kubler-Ross thing, if I was going to introduce anything else into the weekly session, it would be that, because I think from a leader's perspective, the Kubler-Ross cycle is highly important to factor into that change process. And I think, well done to you. You did recognise that, whether you sort of enunciated it as Kubler-Ross, you nevertheless came up with it. So that's really good.
Thank you. What week do you know what week that's on?
The Kubler-Ross. I don't think it's actually in there. I've had a look through. It may be buried somewhere.
Okay.
Because the week you're on at the moment is marketing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then we move on to everybody's favourite, which is the financial, and I think that's it then. So.
Well, I think this week is customer awareness, and then next week is marketing, and then the following week is financial. I think. Yeah. Probably my least favourite.
Yeah, well, I think weeks where are we? 5, 6, and 7. I just broadly call marketing, and then 8 and 9, 6 and 7. Yeah, that's 8 and 9 are the finance ones,
Right.
which I tend to get the most contact on. So, but no, I mean that's specifically why I've introduced the Kubler-Ross cycle, because I really think it's important that that's included in. The managing change. It's vitally important. I mean, to me, the three models that you look at there, even if you just go with the Lewis, I mean, they're almost self-evident. You've got to unfreeze, you've got to do something, and you've got to refreeze. If you take it as most simplistic, most intelligent leaders would know that they've got to do that to implement the change process. And whether they add the bits on the ADKAR or the Cotter model, then that's fine. But you've really got to bring your people with you. And as we go back to beer and look at the Type E and Type O, you can't really have one or the other. You've got to have a combination of the both. But I think European businesses tend to be more the Type O, more the organisation, more the people side of things. In other words, bringing people with them rather than focusing on maximising shareholder value and God help the hindsight sort of thing.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I mean, I read, I think Kurt Lewin's model, which had the unfreeze, the transition, and the refreeze.
Yeah.
And then the pros and cons I read of that, and the ADKAR one. So, but yeah, I don't remember seeing that one. So maybe I'll just look that one up.
The Kubler-Ross.
Yeah.
No, the Kubler-Ross isn't in there.
Oh, okay.
I've introduced it specifically because I don't think it is in there. So what I'm saying is, be very aware of Kubler-Ross and how it affects the people that you're leading, and be very aware of the energy levels of the people as the process is going through.
Yeah.
Because once you know that, you don't get put off necessarily by the confrontation of their anger stage, which is quite early on in the process.
Yeah.
You know that they're going to move on to bargaining. You know that after that they're going to be depressed and their energy levels will low. But you know that after that, if you're managing things correctly, they will start to accept the change process. So it's very important that I think it's very important that you bring in the Kubler-Ross cycle. I've tried to get it introduced. It is in the degree apprenticeship module, which is very degree apprenticeship program, which is very similar in its content, but it's not in this one for some reason. I think it ought to be. So it's there. It's all over the internet, so it's not going to be difficult for you to find. I mean, if it is, it's on this PowerPoint presentation anyway, which I can make available.
Yeah, great.
So that really kind of brings us back full circle to the future, which is, although Margaret Wheatley wrote her book in 1992, she's updated it recently, I think. Um, I think the future is those things there, that the leader seeks uncertainty rather than having it done to them. Um, they're very aware of the importance of training and learning and making sure that their staff are fully trained and developed. Um, they encourage autonomous teams, which is something that a lot of organisations still don't do. So I believe, as a small business consultant in my other life, that you can apply those sort of elements of entrepreneurism to small teams, or to be small teams, but teams within larger organisations, which encourages them to think about being entrepreneurial and giving them permission to think for themselves rather than always controlling them. So I think that's an important part. Um,
Yeah.
Leaders will manage change. So they'll still use the technical side of stuff around the three models. I'm not quite sure what frames issues are, but I guess it means they're looking at what the issues are and making sure that's communicated clearly to their people.
Mm.
Um, I like to take the people out of their comfort zones as well. I think that makes the workplace more exciting,
Yeah.
and I think that's something that will help the Kubler-Ross cycle. If you're giving some people, taking them out of their comfort zones, making sure they're supported when you do it, they're less likely to linger in the anger and depression stages of the Kubler-Ross cycle, I think.
Yeah, I suppose that as a measure of practice, the more you practice that, the less you'll
Yeah.
get the cycle. Yeah.
I think it's got to be managed very carefully, because if you just say to somebody, go and do public speaking, when they're not comfortable with public speaking, then you're likely to lose them. So I think that has to be managed with care, but I still like it as part of the package of the future of leading change. Um, and really, the last four I think are important as well. Really where you're giving the work back to the teams. The teams decide. They're being entrepreneurial. Um, that's highly important, I think, and that will be the future. I'm convinced of it. That small teams in larger organisations will be more entrepreneurial. Will actually act like teams do in small businesses, where they really haven't got the luxury of that corporate structure to sort of keep them in check, as it were.
Yeah, and
So
I think that's where I am really at the
yeah,
moment. I'm in a large organization, a large business, and we have small teams because of my role, so that helps.
yeah,
And it's working, and it's a large structure, a large organizational structure, so there's lots of different companies worldwide,
mm,
but managing the UK sites gives me just a few individuals from those sites to have a dedicated team.
yeah,
So for my role, I suppose I'm quite lucky in that respect.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm convinced that the future is small teams acting more like small businesses,
Mm.
where you know uh, they're engaging with the excitement of enterprise, which I think in a large organisation, and I've worked for both, you tend to lose sight of that immediacy of enterprise, the excitement of it, which you get in a small business where if you're in a small business of 10, 15, 20 people, you're very close to the excitement of actually gaining work, developing the brand, and getting the work out the door, which you can lose sight of, I think, in a larger organisation. But
Yeah.
if you can give that kind of enterprise back to the teams and communicate to them how they fit in with the larger picture, I think managing change becomes much easier and much more easy to accept for the people in those teams.
Mm.
So I think Wheatley's is an important book, and certainly can't remember his name, uh, the guy whose quote I gave you just now.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
I
So
know who you mean.
that's all I've got. I mean, there wasn't an awful lot. I mean, it's only 1 week, because week 5 was a sort of reflection week, so we're not
Yeah,
covering an
yeah.
awful lot. Um,
Okay.
is there anything either in the learning material of week 4, or indeed week 6, if you like, or anything else that you want to raise with me?
I think just really now we're getting close to the 16th of April, I think it is
Yeah, that's the formative submission, isn't it?
yeah. I wouldn't mind a little bit of clarity on which weeks fit which questions in the final
Okay.
So we've got, for instance, I think it's 4 different level of questioning in the assignment. I think I can identify most of it, but I think some of my learning through each week has been quite good, and I've managed to do sort of
Yeah.
400 or 500 words with each
Yeah.
document, and then taken your feedback and addressed that and then revisited it. But
Okay.
some of my documentation is quite weak, where I want to make sure that becomes stronger and just make sure I apply it to the right
When you say
question.
documentation, what do you mean? Sorry.
So the Word documents I've submitted on my learning journal, and you've
Okay.
given feedback.
Yeah.
So with reference to each week and the reading and
All right.
the comments that we've had to put back on the forum as well, which I found quite useful last week in week 5 actually, with reflection, where I answered, I think it was Nick and Ryan's. I don't know if
Yeah.
you saw.
I did.
Uh,
I tend to stay out of the forum discussion because I think if I become involved in that, then people will expect me to comment on their forum discussions. I'd rather leave it to a peer-to-peer discussion. So
yeah.
I only get involved in that, or only will get involved in that, if I see something that is either inappropriate or
Mm,
is wrong. So
mm.
yes, I have been looking at it, but I won't comment on that. So if you want any comment, either give me a ring or email me directly or do it
Yeah.
through the
No,
PowerPoint.
that's fine.
First
I think
PowerPoint.
it's just,
Yeah.
for me, it's because this
Well,
is my sort of first attempt. I
yeah,
wouldn't mind a bit of support on which
yeah.
weeks fit each question in the assignment, really.
Well, what I'd say is what I said last week. I think is that look at the module guide, specifically the bit about the assignment, and on in there you'll see I think it's 9 or 10 headings that they suggest you might want to use for the assignment. Have you looked at that?
I've probably read it a while ago, but I
Yeah,
probably need to
it's
read it.
really important that you look at that and then go back to each of the weeks, and you will see that the task or the assignment that they ask you to submit on PebblePad every week is remarkably close to what they're suggesting you put in the assignment.
Yeah,
Do you see what I mean?
yeah,
So there
yeah,
are several. I mean, there's lots of reading. There are several things you've got to do on the forum, but in each week there's only one task, which is a PebblePad submission,
yeah.
and that PebblePad submission is very closely mapped to the assignment.
Oh, okay,
If you
okay.
if you have a look at that, you'll see what I mean.
Yeah, it links it up.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
So,
great.
if you're cute, what you'll do is you'll think, right, this week PebblePad submission is very close to what I'm going to be putting in my assignment,
Yeah,
so I will write it accordingly and reflectively. So, don't forget the reflective writing. That's really important, and the critical thinking and the
yeah,
expansion. So, for
mm,
instance, on week 4, which we've just done, the expansion could be the Kubler-Ross cycle. Um,
yeah,
so make sure you do that. But realise, of course, that you've only got, I can't remember, is it 4 or 5 thousand words on the assignment? So if you're writing a
yeah,
thousand words every week for your PebblePad submission, you can't copy and paste. You've got to do a lot of editing. So try and be succinct when you're doing your PebblePad submission and limit it to about 500 or 600 words. And then when you come to do your assignment, you can do some copy and pasting because you've aligned it already, but you will have to do some editing because you'll have to bring it back down to within the four or
word
five thousand
to the
words.
word count.
Does
Yeah.
that answer what you were asking?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'll read through it, and if I get any additional questions, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah,
um,
yeah,
and professional the professional plan, the development plan is that's fine. I can put my
yeah.
SWOT in there, and I don't know about a CV whether you're looking for things like that, but
No, the
uh,
professional development plan. Make sure it's got all the actions and all the stuff that you would do in your normal work.
yeah,
When you're doing your performance review and doing the professional development plan there. So I mean I can't remember back to when I did the last one, but there's several. There's what is it? Let me try and think it through. There's what you want to do. There's how you're going to do it, when you're going to achieve it by, what the success will look like, all that kind of stuff. So don't
yeah,
just say, I want to do another course with Plymouth University. You need to extend that out to when you're going to do that course, what the course is going to look like, why you're doing it, how it benefits the organisation, how it benefits you. All those kinds of things that they should be in it as well.
Okay.
Does that?
Okay.
I mean, I think most. I don't know whether your organisation would have that, but if you're submitting a training plan, in most organisations these days, that's what they'll expect. So
Right.
they will not just accept, I want to learn to play the guitar. They'll they'll want to see, I want to learn to play the guitar because this will benefit me in this way. I'll be able to contribute to the organisation in this way. The outcomes will be this. I will get it done by then.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So when you're doing, I mean, don't spend an awful lot of time on it because
No.
the marks for the PDP aren't huge. I think there's only 10 out of the 100, but nevertheless, you want to get those 10 marks. So
Yeah.
you know, a nicely crafted personal development plan with all that kind of information in it. And it doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be war and peace, but you need to show that you thought it through rather than just glossed over it a bit, and that
Yeah.
you've actually drawn the learning, well, drawn your professional development plan from the learning that you've done. So
Mm.
again,
That's good.
by all means, chat to me about that in the future as well as we get closer to it. But
Yeah, so when we submit ours on the 16th, I think of April it is,
yeah,
do you then come back with feedback
I
and
do.
give us a chance? Yeah, you give us
Yes,
a
I will
chance.
do. So I will tell you then whether I think the PDP is extensive enough
Yeah.
or covers the right sort of stuff. So yes,
Okay. That's
um,
good.
that's why the formative is so important. I won't give you a mark. I will
Hmm.
say, I can't remember what I say, but I'll say good, bad, or ugly probably. But
Okay.
um, but yeah, I mean, you'll get some idea, and I will give you some. I mean, presumably you'll submit it in a Word document, and I'll edit it, and you'll see my comments as we go
Yeah.
through it. Um,
Okay.
so hopefully, I won't have to do too many comments.
No, no, that's good. I'm just putting a great deal of pressure on myself because I've not done, a module of this sort before. I mean, I
Yeah,
did one back in the early noughties, I think,
yeah,
which was an MVQ level 3. And it was like this, but to a lesser extent. I did a
yeah,
SWOT and stuff like
yeah,
that. But I mean, I just want, obviously, I want to get the best mark I can, and
yeah.
for lots of different reasons.
And please, if you take anything from this half hour, please go and look at the module guide and the suggested
Yeah.
outline.
Okay.
And it's certainly suggested, but why would you bother doing anything else?
Yeah.
Um, and then go back and quickly look through all the different weeks so far, and you'll see the alignment, I think, between the Pebble Pack
Mm.
submission that it asks you to do and the assignment suggestion. Um,
Yeah.
so I would definitely encourage you to do that.
Okay, great.
All
No, I
right.
will. Yep, I'll do that, and I can crack on with the rest of week
All right.
6.
That's
All
great.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for joining, Caroline. And I'll speak to you, if not before, in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you
All
very
right.
much,
Thank
Jonathan.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.